Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. Happy Friday, it's October 10th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. It's now been over a week since Republicans and Democrats failed to pass a budget deal to keep the federal government funded.
Well, we've made it clear from the very beginning that we want to make sure that people don't get priced out of their health care.
California Senator Adam Schiff shares his perspective on the current state of politics. But first, these headlines. A former Fresno police detective has been arrested on suspicion of stealing cash from an evidence room. The Fresno Police Department says it discovered the missing cash last year. The department requested the FBI conduct an independent investigation into the matter. The detective was taken into custody on Thursday. Fresno Police Chief Mindy Casto said she was deeply troubled by the alleged conduct. Two former softball players at CSU Bakersfield have filed a lawsuit against the university and the CSU system. The lawsuit was announced earlier this week by the university, whose president added he will fully cooperate with the proceedings. Details about the complaints against the university have not been made fully public. CSU Bakersfield has faced several legal incidents among its athletic staff in recent months. The university president recently ordered a commission to be formed to address culture within the department. California Governor Gavin Newsom has vetoed a bill that would have boosted salaries for CAL FIRE firefighters, citing concerns over state costs. The governor added that pay should be negotiated through collective bargaining. The proposal was authored by Republican Assemblymember Heath Flora of Ripon. It would have required the state to raise firefighters' salaries to within 15% of the average salary of the top 20 highest-paying fire departments in California.
We can find money for a lot of other things, and we tend to do that. And I think that's what the frustration that you're hearing from a lot of us is like, we know he likes the firefighters. We know he respects what they do. But for some reason, the political will to get this done isn't there yet.
The bill passed with near unanimous bipartisan support in the legislature. It was backed by a union representing more than 8,000 current and retired CAL FIRE employees. The union says low pay has driven more than 400 firefighters to leave the department in recent years for better paying jobs elsewhere. Governor Gavin Newsom has also vetoed a bill that would have put more restrictions on how police use automated license plate readers. That veto comes at a time when there's renewed attention around police misusing that data. CalMatters reporter Kari Johnson has been following this story and shared more about the misuse he's documented in his own coverage.
Police and sheriff's departments have a history of violating the law when using license plate readers. A CalMatters investigation in June found that roughly a dozen Southern California law enforcement agencies had shared license plate data with federal immigration agencies, like the Border Patrol. That kind of data sharing is illegal, according to a decade-old California law. The bill Newsom vetoed would have required California's Department of Justice to perform random audits of how license plate tracking technology is used. It would have also required agencies to delete some license plate data within 60 days. Newsom said he vetoed the bill because it cost too much and could interfere with police investigations.
That was Kari Johnson with CalMatters. A homeless shelter in Fresno is suddenly closing. Our newsroom partner Fresno Land reports the owner of Soul Housing on Blackstone Avenue announced the closure earlier this week. All staff have been laid off. It's unclear how soon the 250 people staying there must move out or where they will go. Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer told Fresno Land the city was shocked to learn about the shelter's closure. He said the city's been working with other service providers to help find new arrangements for the residents.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from Fresno Mazda, part of the Prieto Automotive family, leading the industry in the IIHS 2025 Top Safety Pick Awards, helping move Mazda closer to the goal of eliminating traffic fatalities. More information and the Mazda digital showroom available at myfresnomazda.com.
And now to our main story. It's been over a week since the federal government came under a partial shutdown. Washington, D.C. is in a stalemate as Republicans and Democrats cannot seem to come to an agreement on health care. Generally speaking, Democrats want to extend a tax credit that would keep prices as they are for the millions of Americans who rely on the public health insurance marketplace. Those subsidies would expire at the end of the year if they're not extended, and that could send monthly premiums skyrocketing. There seems to be some fracture among Republicans on this issue, though, namely from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says the tax credits should stay funded. We will hear the perspective from Republican Congressman Tom McClintock on the shutdown during a special Saturday episode of Central Valley Daily. McClintock represents parts of Madera, Mariposa, and Fresno counties. But as we wait for a resolution in Washington, today I'm speaking with California U.S. Senator Adam Schiff to break down what it would take for Republicans and Democrats to find a bipartisan solution. Plus, we will discuss some California voter issues as well. Thank you for joining me, Senator.
Great to be with you.
So we're now just over a week into the government shutdown. What do things look like on the ground in Washington?
Well, I think given that our constituents are now getting notices about these massive increases in their health insurance premiums, there's a sense of urgency that we resolve this, that Republicans come to the table and work with us to prevent these increases from going into effect. They're going to price people out of the market that are going to result in people not getting the treatment that they need. So I think there's a real sense of urgency. Now, I don't see much progress. I'm sad to say. The Republicans, I think, understand the crisis is real, but they're not going to act on it without the blessing of the president. They don't move without the president. They're afraid of the president. And at this point, the president is really spending his time pushing out internet memes and tweeting at people and spending his time on the golf course and spending his time threatening not to pay federal workers or threatening to cut programs in Democratic states. We've never seen a president handle a shutdown that way, that is, by trying to decide how to maximize the pain on people. We've also never seen a president just overtly, openly say he only wants to represent half the country, wants to punish the other half. But that's where we are. Until we see, I think, a change in the president, it's very unlikely that this gets resolved.
Yeah, that makes me think, the president wrote The Art of the Deal, and this is a big deal that needs to be made between Democrats and Republicans. You mentioned you think the Republicans are taking their cues from the president. What would Democrats need to come to the table and find a solution?
Well, we've made it clear from the very beginning that we want to make sure that people don't get priced out of their health care. That was already a big problem and has been for years, but it is about to get so much worse. Yeah. Millions of people are going to see their premiums double because of what the Republicans put in that big, awful bill. Doing away with the tax credits under the Affordable Care Act is just going to hugely increase people's healthcare costs. They're going to go up by, for example, a family with a median income, a family of four in, say, Anaheim, is going to see $900 to $1,000 increase each month in their healthcare premiums. That's just unsustainable for families. So what is it going to take for Democrats? You got to fix this problem and work with us to fix this problem that you created. And so we've made it very clear what we need if they want, our votes. They control everything. They control the House, the Senate, the White House. This is their shutdown. They own it. The president, before he was president, gave an interview where he made it very clear that it's the president's responsibility to keep the government open, and the failure of a president to bring people to the table and solve problems just like this falls upon the president. He was right then. And so the Republicans aren't going to come to the table. They're not going to agree to anything that they think gets crosswise with the president. They fear retaliation by the president. So we need the president to act like a grown-up leader, not try to divide Americans any further, and try to solve this.
Has President Trump met with any Democratic leaders?
He met with the Democratic leadership a couple days before the shutdown. I don't think there has been any meeting since. There hasn't really been much expression of interest on the president's part in doing so. Really, most of what the president has done is talk to his own people and threaten Democrats and threaten federal employees and threaten to just continue the harms. That's been his response. Now, there is one change in the president, at least rhetorically. A couple of days ago, he started talking about how much he cares about healthcare. That's brand new. And even to the point where I think he said that he cares more about healthcare than anybody else, or than more than Democrats, which was quite amusing in just how off the mark it was. But nevertheless, I think he is starting to get a sense from the people around him. He's got a big problem on his hands, that his popularity has already gone through the basement. And when these healthcare costs kick in fully, the American people are going to be pissed. And they're going to be pissed at him and the Republicans, and they should be. So I think he's starting to understand that, and maybe that moves him to come to the table.
You know, Senator, I want to pivot to some issues that are sort of close to home here in the San Joaquin Valley. This week, California voters started receiving their ballots for Proposition 50. It'll temporarily redraw congressional districts here in California to favor more Democratic Party candidates. This was obviously born out of some gerrymandering moves in Texas and other states. So where do you stand on redistricting of this nature, just especially the way California is going about it?
Well, first of all, I have for years sponsored legislation to do away with the gerrymander in the entire country, so that there was no gerrymander in California, where we had actually gotten rid of it already by a ballot measure, but none in Texas, none in Illinois, none in Ohio, none in New York, none in Washington or anywhere else. Republicans opposed that for years. And I think, not unrelated to the healthcare crisis, the president became so concerned about losing the Republican majority in the House over healthcare, over these premium increases, that he told the Republican governor of Texas to gerrymander the lines and write Democrats out of their seats. So they did. That left California in the position of either having a diluted voice in Congress, ceding essentially some of the power to decide who controls the majority and who the speaker would be, to Texas. And Californians were not going to put up with that. Now, I would love to see us get to the point of having a national redistricting reform again that ends the gerrymander. But until that happens, Prop 50 is very important to pass, to restore the voices of Californians, to make sure that they're not disenfranchised effectively by Texas. And I would say to the Central Valley, which I care deeply about, I fought to get on the Agriculture Committee. I'm proud to be on the Agriculture Committee. We haven't had a Democratic senator. We haven't had any senator on that committee in over 30 years. I want to represent that area well. I'm going to do everything I can to represent that area well, no matter how folks vote, because I want to be the senator for all of California. And I just wish we had a president who wanted to be the president for all of America and not just the red states. And maybe someday we get there. I hope we do. But right now, I think we have to have a temporary pause in the Independent Commission in California to restore balance in the Congress, to make sure that California voices have the same weight as voices in Texas. But I wish the president had never taken us down this road.
I want to pivot to another topic because you've got a lot on your plate right now. This week you had a tense exchange with Attorney General Pam Bondi, who appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee. You also introduced a resolution to check the president's powers after some boats that were allegedly carrying drugs from Venezuela to the U.S. were struck. Now, that resolution failed. I do want to note that the Trump administration insists it had intelligence warranting those attacks. Some people like yourself are concerned about those attacks. So with so much going on in Washington right now, I'm curious why that resolution was something you felt you needed to bring forward.
Well, first, a couple of things. On the Attorney General's appearance in the Judiciary Committee, members of the committee asked very serious oversight questions. The White House border czar, for example, took $50,000 in cash in a paper bag from undercover FBI agents, and Democratic senators asked why that investigation had been shut down by the Trump administration, and the Attorney General refused to answer. The senator from Illinois asked what the legal authority was for the military-style raids in Chicago, and the Attorney General refused to answer the question. Senator Padilla, my colleague, asked what the legal basis was, or rather whether immigration agents were required to adhere to court orders. And she wouldn't answer that question. Instead, she attacked every member of the committee who asked those kind of questions. That's not oversight. I would hope that the committee would insist on answers to those important questions and expect better of an attorney general than to just respond with personal insults, pre-written canned personal insults. In terms, though, of the war powers of the president and Congress, the Constitution is very clear about this. Congress has the power to declare war, to authorize the use of force, or not to. The founders very specifically, very deliberately did not give that power to the president because it believed the executive branch was too fond of war, and it needed to be in the hands of the people in Congress closest to the people they represented. That's our constitutional structure. So there's no legal authority for the president on his own to say, I'm going to blow these ships out of the water. I'm going to put names on a list of organizations or people. It's a secret list. I'm not going to tell anybody who's on it. I'm just going to arrogate to myself the right to kill these people. If these folks were transporting narcotics, what we do is we interdict the ships, we arrest them, we confiscate. We don't just blow up ships, not knowing potentially everybody who's on board, not knowing whether a ship is transporting narcotics or engaged in human trafficking, in which case you're blowing up the victims along with the perpetrators. So my resolution asserted that under the War Powers Act, this is Congress's authority. We have not authorized this, and it should stop. And if the president wants the authority, he needs to come to Congress and ask for it. I will say that the vote in support of my resolution was bipartisan. It didn't have enough votes. We were, I think, 3 or 4 votes shy of what we needed to get it passed. But the risk is, by the president blowing up ships thousands of miles away from us, that the president make mistakes, that innocent people get killed, or that it drags us into an unintended war with another country.
Again, the Trump administration has been rather opaque on the intelligence that warranted those strikes, but claim that they stand by it. I'm curious for you, are you going to introduce another resolution, or what can you do now to make the stand that you feel is important?
Well, I suspect that this problem may just get worse, that the administration not only will attack ships, but the president is now talking about attacking targets on land. Should the president, without authority, start doing some kind of bombing runs or bombing in Venezuela or elsewhere, it could very well lead to a full-fledged war. And the need for a resolution curtailing those unconstitutional uses of force becomes even greater, and I could see the bipartisan support for it becoming even greater. So I do not at all foreclose the possibility of having to introduce another resolution to put a stop to this. Again, there is a legal mechanism. If the president believes that there is some kind of imminent threat to the country or long-term threat to the country, he can come to Congress and request an authorization to use military force. Or if something is an imminent threat, a military attack, then he has Article 2 power to deal with it. But a ship 2,700 miles from here that is not intending to attack the United States, there is no authority of the president to simply blow it out of the water.
California U.S. Senator Adam Schiff, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. You take care now.
And because the government shutdown is rapidly evolving, tomorrow we are airing a special weekend episode, as I mentioned. Hear Republican Congressman Tom McClintock's perspective on the government shutdown. His district covers parts of Fresno, Madera, and Mariposa counties. And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. You can find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
Sources and methods, the crown jewels of the intelligence community. Shorthand for how do we know what's real? Who told us? If you have those answers, you're on the inside, and NPR wants to bring you there. From the Pentagon to the State Department to spy agencies, listen to understand what's really happening and what it means for you. Sources and Methods, the new national security podcast from NPR.